Ohio Valley, you're tuning in to the hottest Streamcast in the Valley. OVAthletics.com, Streamcast. I'm your host, Jeff Stevens. This is Zak Clem, our co-host. Zak, last week I think went really well. We did some game recaps. We did some rankings. I say let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get
ready,
to it.
Zak?
Yeah, I was born ready.
Hey, if you've never been or heard of the fair game, which I don't even know if they call it that anymore, but I still call it the fair game. You have St. Clairsville versus Union Local.
I didn't know it was called the Fair Game, so that's something.
And it's called the Fair Game, Zak, because they used to have the Belmont County Fair right there, like in the background of the game. So as the game's going on, you had all the rides, the lights and everything. A great venue for a football game. Of course, the Demolition Derby was on the infield. I don't think St. Clairsville wants that on the track anymore.
Hey, the only Demolition Derby St. Clairsville wanted was their lineman blocking for him, right?
Oh, you got that right. So, the game started out all defense to begin with. You got your money's worth. Very tight game. UL had a 6-0 lead to start the game. The first of two Carter Blake touchdown runs. Their quarterback actually ran it in a couple times. Jackson Price for Union Local. We talked about him last week. Another big game, Zak. 146 yards rushing. But the key to Coach Fry's defense held him out of the end zone.
Ooh. That's always tough to do when you have a running back of that caliber. I mean, anybody that's ever coached knows how hard it is to get those guys up front moving and keeping those guys out of the end zone, especially if they're getting over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, so it's almost maybe like a bend but don't break, and he didn't make it in the end zone. Andrew Vera, quarterback for St. Clairsville, came through big for him. He had a touchdown pass, and he had a touchdown run. Less than 30 seconds left in the game. He ran one in with what would be the winning score of the game. St. Clairsville moves to 6-2 on the season.
6-2.
Yeah, that's good with their schedule. Yeah, that's a good record.
I'm pretty sure they had a tougher schedule, right?
Yeah,
who were their two losses against? Do you remember?
They played. I don't remember right off the top of my head the two losses. And then UL moves to 5-3. Right in the playoff hunt with the top 16 making it in. They're rating the hunt for not only to get in the playoffs, but also a home game when they get there.
Absolutely.
So we'll be checking out the rankings later on, Zak.
Oh, we always got to check out the rankings.
Yes, yep. Of course. The next game is close to home. John Marshall High School, the Monarchs. My Monarchs, proud graduate of John Marshall, took on the Geyser Golden Tornado. Yeah, always a tough double-A program.
That's a fantastic team name, too, the Golden Tornado. I love that.
Yeah, John Marshall came out with a big victory, 30-14. Now, Jacob Caulfield was out of the game, and, I got to coach Jacob at Sherrard Middle School, and if he's sitting out a game, he's got to be hurt because tough kid, tougher than a $2 steak.
That's my favorite expression you have. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. So with Jacob out, Brennan Sabuka, who also played for me, comes into the game. Didn't put up great stats, but what I'll tell you about Brennan is just a competitor, just a winner. He and kind of I think in Coach Caesar's mold, just do what it takes to win a football game.
Absolutely. I mean, those are the guys that are the backbone of your program. Those guys that can step in, do their job, be one of those guys moving forward and marching forward together. Because that's always challenging when you have somebody that's your reliable starter who's kind of the lifeblood of your team goes down. Who's going to step in and fill that role? And I think he did admirably.
Yeah. Brendan would come in. I know he knew the offense and he could put people in right positions. And sometimes that's all you need to do.
Right.
The big game came from their kicker, Connor Fitzpatrick, who I also got to coach at Sherrard. Great kid. He hit 3 field goals and 3 extra points. If you've never seen this kid kick, you got to see it.
Oh, absolutely. He's got a heck of a leg. He can really boom them. I was watching when I was down at their homecoming game this year after we had our kids walking the homecoming parade. I was down there and watching, and you can just tell the strength of his leg. He gets really good leverage on it, and his footwork's really great on his run up on the kick as well.
And what a lot of people don't realize is the athlete that Connor is. He's a top-level athlete, great soccer player, cross-country runner. He can do it all. A play during that game, punt snap goes over his head. Okay, he runs it down. It's bouncing everywhere. He gets a 20-yard punt off. So it goes from a 20-yard loss, to a 20-yard gain, 40-yard field position.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a huge flip.
Yeah.
I know Coach Heinerman loves to say with us that he talked to Coach Joe Paterno, and he always said that the punt was the most important play in football because it's the only time where you can truly flip the field. And to flip a mistake like that into something positive is a huge plus.
Yeah. Great athlete. Not to be outdone by his brother Carson, who plays for us right now. Made a couple tackles, and Carson finished 8th in the OVAC cross-country meet this past weekend.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Dad was a college athlete, brother's a college athlete, so those athletics just run in the family there. I don't know if Coach White was there watching. I think he might have been calling plays. A hook and ladder and a double pass, Coach.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Both of them in one game.
Did they work?
They both scored. I believe they scored on both
Maybe it
plays.
wasn't Coach White calling.
I don't know, Zach, but I know if he was watching, listening, whatever Coach White was doing, the hook and ladder and double pass just has Coach White written all over it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, both successful plays I know in that game. John Marshall's defense pitched a shutout in the second half. They had a couple leaders on defense. They had Maverick and Masters that came up big, Bryce Cook, and then Brennan's twin brother, Braden Sabuka, came up big on the defensive end. John Marshall moves to 3-3, and as we go over the playoff rankings later, we'll see that they're right in the playoff hunt. The next game, near and dear to Coach Sokovic and I's heart, Cameron over Valley. Coach Sokovic and I made it out there. The article can be found on ovathletics.com, but I just wanted to take a minute to thanks to Cameron, to the administration, the players, the coaches, the fans. What a great experience, and I like to prove myself right sometimes, Zach, and I think I did on this one. When I said you got to go out there to watch a game, as soon as we got there, as you see that tree line and the sunset, you just knew it was a perfect setting for West Virginia high school football.
Well, anybody that knows Jeff knows that he loves to pat himself on the back, so I'll give him the pat on the back there for him. But yeah, Cameron's a great place to go. I mean, huge win for them. Two teams that I'm very familiar with from my Donahue days, Cameron and Valley. But it's awesome that they treated you guys so well. I heard you guys had a really great time. Be sure to check out the article again. We're not going to spend too much time on that one, but be sure to check it out. It's a great article.
Yeah. Next, we didn't cover this team last week, and I can't believe why not. The Edison Wildcats, okay? 49-14 over Harrison. Edison stays undefeated, okay? Now we talk about the game changer of the week. How about Gage Klein, okay? 12 carries, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground.
Wow.
Adds 107 yards passing and another touchdown in the air.
That's like somebody playing Madden right there. I mean, it's just crazy. Just somebody running around doing it all.
Yeah. Hey, if you know Gage, tell him great game last week. Kept the Wildcats undefeated. They had 443 yards on the ground. Do you win a lot of games, Zach? 443 yards on the ground?
You bet. And when I see that many yards on the ground, you know what that tells me, Coach? Those big mahonkers up front are really moving people around and letting people get off the blocks, get into the second level, and get running. I love it.
And Zach, I know as a former offensive lineman, you're going to love this story. Ashton Ellis, one of their hog mollies up front. They had a special play designed for him. He scored the last touchdown of the game. They had a special run set up for him. So they had him score the last touchdown. Give him a little, attaboy at the end there.
Fantastic.
Get one of the big boys in the end zone. They love that. Now, this was Edison's last home game in the regular season. I don't think this is going to be their last home game.
Absolutely.
They're 8-0. I say they're going to host a playoff game, maybe 2. Harrison Central goes to 4-4, still in that playoff hunt, as we'll see later. Next, traditional powers met up. You have Wheeling Central and Martins Ferry. Now, programs are in different spots right now.
Normally with that game, though, you can take those records and you can get them out of there because they always play each other tough. I know anytime Wheeling Central plays Ferry, anytime Lindsley plays Ferry, any of those teams, you can get the records and what's gone on at that point of the season out the window. But I think this time you can't really throw anything out the window because this game kind of looked typical for Wheeling Central.
Yeah, and what happened? Central ended up winning 60-22, but I don't think that told the story of the game. Central had a couple players had big games. You had Riley Watkins, 10 carries, 179 yards, and a couple touchdowns. Lorenzo Ferreira, 10 carries, 174 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
So, funny story about Lorenzo Ferreira. He used to be one of our water boys at Donahue. That kid used to steal my hat and run away with it all the time, and he would just cackle maniacally the entire time. So it's kind of shocking to me to see him on a high school anything, but
maybe that's how he got all that speed and scored all those touchdowns running from you, Coach.
Hey, it might have been.
And I tell you what, this Aiden Ludolph for Martins Ferry, 173 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, left early in the third quarter. The game was 34-22.
Ooh, so it was close at that point.
So it was real close at that point. You lose your quarterback, goes out of the game, and it goes probably off the rails a little bit for you, especially you got a kid that had 3 touchdowns. I know Coach Croppa's building that program, and I think this is a game you can look at, and I know that the final score didn't say anything, but the Martins Ferry kept fighting to the end of the game, and that's what you're going to get from a Coach Croppa.
Absolutely. It's definitely something to hang their hat on. I mean, being that close to the game, I've been in some of those games against Central. They just do what they do so well. Even in a close game, they're going to keep going, and eventually something's going to break, and you just got to hope that you contain it a little bit. And it looks like they rode it for a little bit. wrote it a little bit.
Yeah. I got it.
Good
Right.
one. Yeah,
I got it, Zach.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's your dad joke for the day.
There it is. Yep. Ding. But yeah, it's great to see Ferry at least hold on for a little bit, and you can see that they're starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah. Central end of the game, 423 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. When you do that, you're going to win a lot of games.
Absolutely.
Wheeling Central stays undefeated on the season at 6-0. Now, Martins Ferry at 3-5. You might say, that's not great. Now, I tell you what, with them taking 16 teams in the playoffs, they're right in the hunt. They were 1-9 last year. So now you're 1-9. You got 2 games left and already have 3 wins this year. You're just on the right track.
Absolutely.
You're definitely
Absolutely.
And I don't know, their 8th grade team, I believe, is still undefeated.
Oh,
so you have some kids. You
talent
have some kids coming in. You must. I mean, if you're undefeated over there, you're doing pretty well. So that 8th grade group coming in, maybe starting to build something.
That'd be fantastic for Coach Kropka.
Yeah, definitely. Another team that I looked at this weekend, Steubenville Central Catholic beat Bridgeport 15-14.
Ooh, tight one.
That's a close game. Now, how about this? Bridgeport had 6 turnovers, Zach.
I haven't had 6 turnovers since Thanksgiving last year.
That doesn't surprise me, Zach. But when you have 6 turnovers in a game, what's your chances of winning?
Not usually very great. And to see that there were 6 turnovers in a 15-14 game, the first thing you go to is defensive battle, but it doesn't seem like that may be the case.
Yeah. But I tell you what, this Colin Jackson from Bridgeport, another maybe game changer of the week, in a loss, 342 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's impressive.
Fred Ray likes to throw the ball there at Bridgeport, so you're going to get some yards passing there. But the Steubenville Central Catholic defense just came up big. They got the turnovers. It's not the Bridgeport teams don't just turn the ball over to you, but you force those turnovers. They're forced turnovers.
Absolutely.
And so, good win for Steubenville Central Catholic there.
Right.
And a lot of times I tell you, football will drive our website. But we're more about just football. We want to do some other things. So how about this? The West Virginia SSAC Golf Championships for boys were this past weekend, and we had some great performances from some local teams and kids. AAA champion, Wheeling Park.
I mean, Wheeling Park's the class of AAA golf, in my opinion. I know some kids that have played on that team. I know some that are currently playing on that team, and I know they're always really competitive. They had some really good players on that team, and they shot really well. And I mean, it's a beautiful course up there.
So they were led by Gavin Goodrich, shot a 149 for the weekend, and Campbell Kegler.
Campbell Kegler, yeah. So I actually taught Campbell Kegler way back in the day at the Nature Center when he was a little first grader, and I ran into his mother at Ogilvy Fest this weekend, and I congratulated her on him shooting a great game, and she's like, I think he was off a little bit. So if 159's off, I would hate for him to see my scorecard when I go golfing.
And they led Park to a state championship. Class single A, Wheeling Central. Here they are, a championship for them. Justin Dort shot a 162. Ryan Costanzo, a 167 to lead Wheeling Central to a state championship. Both, great job goes out to those two. And again, I'm going back to John Marshall, my alma mater. Colton Sprouse medaled with a 166.
So 166 is not shabby.
Shot a great score.
I mean, if we look at Ryan Costanzo from Wheeling Central shooting 167, I mean, 166 is respectable.
Yeah.
I know the AAA field is probably a little bit more competitive in that regard, but I mean, that's still a heck of a game and shot really well.
Yeah, so just a shout out to Colton Sprouse there at John Marshall. Right now, we'd be breaking for a commercial. So as I talk about commercials and sponsors, we're doing some 30-second spots that we'd like to use right now, Zach.
Absolutely.
And just your business could be on right now. We could be talking about, a restaurant, a car dealership, a law firm, just something that you want to get out there. We had 200 views of our video last week, Zach. So 200 people were watching on our very first video.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad for a first one.
Yeah, not bad at all. So right here, right now, you could get a 30-second spot. Contact us, get a hold of us on Facebook, get a hold of us on ovathletics.com. We'll be reaching out to you. A 30-second spot, a great spot for you to have here. This could be your business that we're talking about right now.
And I'd love to write some sort of cheesy ad for you, or you could provide that, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah. You could even come on. We'll promote you.
Hey, we'll bring you on.
Yeah. Zach, we're going to look at some rankings this week. They come out on Tuesday, hot off the press.
Hot off the press?
I would say we're the first Streamcast that's doing the rankings.
Hey,
you almost have them live.
Almost live.
Almost live. Yep. So let's take a look at AAA.
Okay.
Parkersburg South, number 2. Okay, they come in at 5-1, and they're scoring points like crazy, Zach.
Oh, Parkersburg South has really been the top of the class of Class AAA. I was trying to come up with a better analogy for it, but I just don't have one. But they've been playing exceptionally well. I know they've been really tough in all the games they've played. I mean, again, you're not a one-loss team unless you've got something going on.
Yeah. Now, we'll jump around a little bit if we look at the rankings. You have Morgantown at 11. The reason I go to Morgantown, they play South this week.
Oh, so they did. Yep, that would be a logical conclusion there.
So something's going to give. Either Morgantown's going to get a whole bunch of points with a victory. South, with a loss, maybe drop a little bit. But South with a win, against the 11th ranked team, you're going to get some bonus points there. And maybe get up to that number 1 spot.
Absolutely. Have you ever been to Morgantown's field?
I've been to Morgantown's field. Tom and I were talking about that as one of our best venues. Not to plug anything that we're doing later in the podcast, but
no, we wouldn't do that.
But Tom and I were talking about Morgantown's field. That school's just wrapped around it. Actually, I watched one of my niece's lacrosse games. I was coaching a basketball game in the high school, and it was cold, snowy. So I'm sitting there in the cafeteria, heat and everything, looking out, texting my sister as it's sleeting outside, and going, "Boy, it's nice where I'm at." She's coaching the Wheeling Park girls team at the time, so I was kind of getting on her a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, if we jump back to number 1, we got Musselman, and you're going to say, Jeff, Musselman, are we eating applesauce or something? I don't think so. But we're going to Musselman because they're number one in Class AAA. And guess who they draw this week?
I have a feeling it's going to be one of our big local valley teams. I'm going to pretend like I didn't look this up or I didn't guess. Wheeling Park?
It's the Wheeling Park Patriots. They come in at 13. Now, at 13, they're the best 13-ranked team, I guarantee, in all 3 classes. They're 4-2. They play a top-notch schedule. They're going to get some wins later on this season. If they can get a win against Musselman, number 1 ranked team in the state, skyrocket in the points.
Do you think that would be their biggest win since their state championship?
I'd say it's got to be close, Zach. I mean, Musselman comes in at 5-1. They're out there in Eastern Panhandle. They're going to have athletes. They're going to have players. But I don't know, after watching Park a couple times this year, there's not too many teams that keep up that speed. No, they've got it all over.
They've got speed all over the field, and their defensive backfield is just as quick as their wide receivers are. And, I mean, just class. I mean, I like to toot my own horn a little bit because some of those kids I coached back in Wheeling Middle days are starting to contribute for Wheeling Park, which doesn't always happen. But we've got some kids that were pretty decent athletes that are starting to show up on the field for Wheeling Park.
You got to be proud of them.
Oh, so absolutely.
I think that's a big the matchups in AAA this week. With South and Morgantown, and you got Park and you got Musselman, ranked teams playing each other
just
this
huge.
Late in the season. Trying to jockey for that top 8 to get a home playoff game.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Next, as we keep looking in the rankings, you have University, at 12, and they sit there. They have a bye this week. They're 5-2. They're sitting there, right on the cusp. So they're 12 with solid 12. A couple wins. You're going to get a possible home playoff game.
Absolutely.
And just fighting for a playoff spot there at 12. Top 16 make it.
I don't have a whole lot more to add on that one.
That's all right. If we look further in the rankings, you're going to see 2 local teams that are playing this week. You're going to see John Marshall High School and Brook. Brook's sitting right now at 16. Zach, could I see a little? There we go. Brook's sitting at 16. John Marshall's sitting at 20. So you're right there on the edge of your Brook High School.
Yep.
So you're at 16. You're in right now.
You're in right now.
Now you're playing John Marshall, who's 20, has a couple wins. This is a big game this week for both schools.
It's huge for both of them. And again, one of my favorite games. I mean, I say there's a lot of favorite games a lot of weeks, but that's one of my favorite games to see. John Marshall and Brook. I mean, again, really, really great. They're both sort of the heart blood of their community. They're really great when they go at it, and it's always an entertaining game to watch.
Yeah, and this one's going to be good. I mean, John Marshall wins, probably going to sneak into that top 16 for this week. Brook wins, possibly bump up a couple spots. Stay away from those top couple teams in the first round.
It would be a huge win for Coach Caesar just because of the fact that, as we talked about in our first segment, they have a couple injuries that they're battling through.
Yeah.
Who knows what their status will be for this week, so we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, if they can all come together and use that as a unifying force, maybe John Marshall can get rolling a little bit.
I don't think I'm giving anything away to Mac up there at Brook, but they might get a heavy dose of Clipson Wallace this week from John Marshall. Yeah, he's going to run the ball quite a bit. Moving to Double A, we have Weir High School. So if we look at Weir, they're at 20, and sometimes I know, Zach, you don't want to include some of these teams that are towards the bottom, but they're 4-3. Okay,
They got a winning record. We can include them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have a Division I athlete at tackle, so you're going to run behind him. I know that. And they have Albert Gallatin coming to town, so I think possibly a win there at 20 might be able to move them up in that top 16. I know they played John Marshall tough early in the year. Couldn't come up with a victory, but
Well, and it's not really like the teams in front of them or anything to sneeze at. I think it's about a half point in the ranking separates them from one of the playoff teams. So they should be able to move up there, get a couple wins, and get rolling.
Yeah. Now moving to Single A, where we got quite a few teams representing the Valley here. Wheeling Central sits at 2 this week. Undefeated. They're 6-0, right behind Williamstown. And these are the two teams. I mean, this is who people are talking about. Williamstown and Central. They're kind of on a collision course.
I was gonna say it kind of seems like those two are always the class of Single A. I know back in the Donahue days we had bouts with both of them. Williamstown, back when I was coaching, Coach Board had just left Donahue, and he was a Williamstown guy. Out coaching in Ohio now, doing a great job with New Lexington. Doing a great job coaching out there. But Coach Board, when we went down there, another great stadium to go to. They sort of treat you as a taste of the town down there, and we were with Coach Board, who's practically royalty down there. So it was nice to move around with him a little bit.
Yeah, Wheeling Central this week has Carrick, Pennsylvania. They're coming in. It's Wheeling Central's homecoming this weekend, so hopefully the kids have a good time.
Up with the pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, and get a victory on homecoming. You always want to get that win on homecoming.
With it being a homecoming game, I'm surprised you and Tom aren't going to be there.
No, well, we are going to be at a homecoming game, just not that one. It seems like we hit all the homecomings in the Valley. Next, as I look through the rankings, you have Cameron there. They're sitting at 6. They're 7-0. Like I said, Tom and I were just out there, taking a look. They go to Clay Battelle this week.
And, the Seabees.
Yes, the Seabees.
Oh, the Seabees.
You know what you're going to get out of Clay Battelle.
You know what you're going to get every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
You're probably going to get some bigger offensive linemen. They're going to be running downhill. They sit 14th in the rankings. So Cameron has a chance here, to beat a team who has a 4-1 record. So you're going to get some playoff points. And so now Cameron's going to start going up towards that 4, where you don't have to really leave home. Then you get up to that 1 or 2, and you get a real favorable matchup.
And we all know Cameron's field is great, but when you get into the playoffs and those teams have to come travel to Cameron, I always say the road out to Cameron is a nice home field advantage, especially if you have a couple of players that get a little car sick. That bus ride can be a little much for them sometimes. That's a huge home field advantage for Cameron. My only concern with them is the Seabees, is they always play the Seabees tough. And it seems to me this year Cameron's been a little bit of a tale of two halves, where they played extremely well for one half and then maybe let the team hang around for a half. So hopefully in a game that's usually pretty tight and usually pretty fierce competition between those two, that doesn't come to nip them in the butt. Yeah,
I think they'll put it all together. Going for that playoff push, you want to be playing your best, when you get to week 11. And I think that's what all these teams are striving for. I mentioned Clay. Just mentioned Clay Battelle at 14. They got Cameron. They can gain some playoff points. If they can pull the upset. They can really rise up from 14 and possibly get in maybe the 10 spot. Maybe
absolutely even, they could wiggle up a little bit. Yeah, if it was an upset.
The hunt for a playoff game. Yep. You beat an undefeated team. You're going to get some points there. Another team that I look at. As we look through the rankings, would be Weird Madonna. They're at 23 right now, and I know we don't look at 23 usually too low, but at 3-3, you get a couple wins. And they're taking 16 teams. As I follow the West Virginia football rankings, 5-5 can get you in the playoffs sometimes.
5-5 can get you in, especially if those 5 wins are quality wins. And we've seen it across all the classes, but in Single A, it seems like sometimes there's a little bit of those chances for some of those teams to sort of sneak in. You worry about if you're a 16 seed going to Williamstown or going to Wheeling Central. Yeah. What are you going to get when you come into those environments?
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be extremely tough road. So if you can get a couple more wins and wiggle your way up into that 14 range, maybe you have a chance for an upset.
Yeah, maybe a winnable game. They have Richwood this week, so we'll see what happens there. The last team, St. Mary's is if you look at St. Mary's, they're at 18th at 4-2. So St. Mary's at 18th at 4-2. You're right outside, and the Devils they're looking to do a little push here to get in the playoffs.
And I mean, if we look at the rankings again, 0.7 points are keeping them out from or at least in the rankings here from the WVSSAC. So that's not a very huge margin. That's one that you get a good quality win against a team that's going to net you some points. Maybe it's something you can wiggle your way in with.
Yeah, Zach. great with the West Virginia. We went over some rankings. The teams that they're going to play this week, it's getting towards the end of the season. These teams are really going to have to start bringing their A game, especially those teams even that are bottom of the rankings that want to get in.
Yep.
Or if you're at the top, people won't need that win. And they're going to be playing tough.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time where if your team's coming together, they've hit their stride, you got to hit the ground running. If they're one of those teams that maybe went on a little bit of a skid, you got to get yourself narrowed out and start focusing on, hey, we got to make this playoff push. We got to get in here.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a look at Ohio now, Zach.
Hop across the river, if you will.
We're going to go right across the river, maybe walk across the suspension bridge. We're not going to ride across it because, it's a long story for another podcast, I guess. But as we look at the Ohio rankings, let's start off with Dover.
Dover.
Who doesn't want to look at the Crimson Tornado?
Hey.
And as we've been told, as we learned this week, great place to go watch a high school football game. I've only seen highlights. I've never been to Dover High School.
I've never been to Dover High School either.
It's going to have to be on my to-do list.
It's going to have to be, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They're 6th, okay, and they're Division 2, bigger division in Ohio, Region 7. They're 5-3. How about the game this week, Zach?
My Lindsley Cadets. Time for them. I mean, that might be one of the games of the week. It's going to be a really competitive game. Dover and Lindsley both looking to get rolling a little bit. I don't know as much about Dover's offense, but I know that Lindsley's going to bring some pepper with their offense. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Dover's always got some great athletes and big kids. You combine those two, Zach, what do you get?
Get a strong running game, usually.
Yeah. Coach Shift, whatever it takes to win. They'll air it out. They'll put the ball on the ground. Whatever it takes to get victories is what they're going to do there at Dover. Looking further in the rankings, we look at New Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
And we look, they're 14th. And you got to remember, and I got to give a shout out to Cadet Fan 23. Hopefully he's watching again, or she's watching again. It could be he or she. Got a message from Cadet Fan 23 just telling me a little bit about the rankings. I was going off last year. It's the top 16 that make it in Ohio now in each region. And then the top 4 get the top seeds get playoff games in the first 2 rounds.
Gotcha,
so there's no buys this year.
Interesting.
So they went from 12 to 16, adding teams that we'll discuss a little bit later. But you have New Philadelphia at 14, Division 3, Region 9. They're 5-3. Okay, so they're right there, winning record.
Absolutely.
2 weeks left. They got West Holmes this week. So New Philly gets a win. They definitely stay in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
Next. It's a school that everybody knows about, Steubenville, the Big Red.
Everybody knows about them, and I'm sure some people, when they hear us talk about Steubenville, they're like, oh, there they go again, talking about Steubenville. But it's hard to talk football in the Valley without bringing them up.
Well, can you skip out on a number 1 ranked team, Division 4, Region 15? How could you skip out on?
It's hard to skip out on a number 1 ranking ever.
Okay, so they come in, it's 7-1,
yep,
and playing Youngstown Cardinal Mooney this week.
I know that's a storied program, but I think you were saying that they're not the Youngstown Mooney of days of old.
They're not. They've fallen on really hard times. I don't know how long it's been since they've even had a winning season, but it's been a while. They've had a rough time up there at Youngstown Cardinal Mooney. Used to be the class of Ohio football, and they've fallen off a little bit. And Steubenville scheduling them, I'm sure both teams people don't want to play those two. Even though Youngstown's down, Steubenville. It's tough for them finding games. So Steubenville goes out and gets a Youngstown Mooney. See if they get a victory, go to 8-1. They get that number 1 ranking, and that really helps you. You're going to get 2 home playoff games. You win the first one, you're going to get a home in the second one. It just makes it nice for your team.
Absolutely. We know Coach Reno's kind of become accustomed to having some of those home playoff games. That'll be great for them out there. One of my dear friends, Roger Micker, loves Steubenville football. He used to talk my ear off anytime Steubenville was playing a big game, so I'm sure he'd be really excited to go to a couple home playoff games up there.
Oh, definitely. How about before we go on with our rankings, we take a break right now, kind of talk about our advertising, commercials, and stuff. Right now could be your spot to be on OhioValleyAthletics.com Streamcast.
Absolutely.
So your business could be right here, right now. I could be saying, hey, come to this great place, come buy a car here, come buy a house from me. Whatever you want us to push and sell, Zach, put your advertising dollars here. It's going to go back to the Valley. It's going to go back to the kids of the Valley. And that's what we're really looking to support. We're looking for just 30-second ads. You can write them. We can write them. Just let us know. Let us know on Facebook. Go to ovathletics.com. Get on our message boards. And just tell Tom or myself, just say, hey, we'd love to advertise with you. We want to give back to the Valley. I think that's a big thing, Zach, as you had mentioned, be on our team.
Absolutely. We're here for the team of the Ohio Valley. Come join our team. That's what we'd love. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to have a little blurb here. I would absolutely love to be looking at a little card with our little ad read for any of you guys and get that going.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in an ad read, let us know.
Yeah. Hey, we're looking for a sponsor for our Streamcast as well. We'll put banners up for you. We have all kind of stuff set up.
Your banner could be down here.
Yeah, right there. Follow
right
Zach.
There.
Sponsored by.
Right there. Sponsored by. Could be right there.
We'll put a logo there. We'll put a name there. Whatever we need to. Yes. All right. So getting back to the rankings, a close local school, Zach, St. Clairsville. And they've had this thing rolling for years. They're ranked 2, Division 4, Region 15. They sit at 6-2 and have Fort LeBoeuf this week.
I believe that we're going to talk a little bit more about that game later on in our Pick'em segment, but St. Clairsville does what St. Clairsville does exceptionally well. I mean, it seems in this division, it always seems like Steubenville and St. Clairsville are up there near the top, duking it out for that 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, and hey, for local sake, if they stay at 1 and 2, they stay away from each other for a while, so we can get some local teams getting further in the playoffs.
That would be fantastic.
Definitely. We look further in Division 4. You look at Cambridge, the Bobcats. They're at number 9 in Region 15. So they're in. I mean, they're taking top 16. So Cambridge, the Bobcats are in right now. They're 6-2. That's a pretty strong record.
They're only a win or 2 away from hosting a home playoff game.
Yeah. The top 4 is going to host 2. And they're right there sitting at number 9.
If you get in the top half, I mean, hey, you get a chance to host one. That would be great for them.
And they have Marietta this week. So, they got a pretty good game this week. Get a win, improve to 7-2 towards the end of the season. So we'll be keeping an eye on the Bobcats. Another team, I think we missed them in the rankings. I apologize, Edison.
I think we did, yeah.
We missed you last week, but we're not going to miss you anymore. You're undefeated, okay? And we missed an undefeated team. That's on us, and I'll take the blame for that.
Yep.
You're ranked 4th, Division 5, Region 17. You're 8-0. Impressive win this past week. To remain undefeated.
The real question is, how strong is that division if an undefeated team is ranked 4th?
It's got to be really strong.
It's got to be a meat grinder.
And I think you mentioned last week, Zach, I don't care what your schedule is, you're 8-0. Tough to do.
Tough to do.
Absolutely. And they have Buckeye Local this week. So they have the Panthers this week. Get a win again. Now you're at 9-0. Now you have a little pressure on you to complete that undefeated season.
Little bit.
But good luck to Edison.
And once you get to that undefeated season, when you get that far in, you almost have a target on your back, right? Everybody wants to be the person to ruin that undefeated record. And so Buckeye Local, I'm sure they're going to try to come up and be the first one to knock that off. But I know Edison's rolling really strongly right now. Buckeye Local's going to have their job cut out for them.
Definitely. I think the Panthers coaching staff will have them ready. And I know bulletin board material, make that 0-1.
Absolutely. That would be a huge win for them if they manage to pull it off. But hopefully Edison, for their fans, keeps rolling.
Next, we have Barnesville, the Shamrocks. Now, I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't know if Tom's going to get mad at me for this or not. But Barnesville, we're coming to see you this week. Ohio Valley Athletics are going to be at the Barnesville game this week against Shenandoah. We want to come see you, Shamrocks. We're excited to come over and just to be part of your community. So be on the look for us. Okay, hopefully you recognize us. Come up and say hi, introduce yourself. They're 5th, Division 5, Region 19, 8-0. 8-0, Zach. They have Shenandoah coming in. So again, we could keep saying about undefeated season. And I did get to see Barnesville already this year when they played River, and just a phenomenal game in the atmosphere. Barnesville, we're coming to see you. So next, let's move on to Fort Fry. They got a 1 beside of them.
Ones are hard to do.
Definitely. Division 6, Region 23, they're 7-1.
7-1?
Yeah, 7-1. That's a real good record. And they're going to play Logan this week. That triple option offense, you can't prepare for it at practice. You can't get your scout team ready to prepare for it. And Fort Fry just runs it so smooth.
And as much as I do when it's coaching, it's hard. It's all about assignment football. And if the second one of those assignments breaks down, if your defensive end misses their key, if your defensive tackle misses a key, if a linebacker misses a key, that triple option will really make you pay for it because they're constantly reading faster, and because they've been so experienced with it, they're going to keep flowing with it as well.
Yeah, and it seems like the defense, your eyes lie to you all the time. Playing that triple option, your eyes just lie. and it's hard to get your brain to tell your eyes not to watch stuff.
I mean, it seems like a lot of times in the Valley, we've seen a lot of advent of adding in some spread offense, adding in a little bit of air raid concepts, doing a lot of, and then even traditional I formation and power running.
Yeah.
You don't see a whole lot of the triple option game anymore. So it's one of those things, it's a wrinkle that's hard to prepare for when you're one of the few teams that does it.
Yeah. Moving on next, we got Shenandoah. We talked a little bit about them. They're going to be playing at Barnesville this week. They're 6th, Division 6, Region 23. They're 6-2. And they're going to Barnesville. So we'll have more about this game on ovathletics.com.
Oh, it's gonna be a fantastic game for you guys. I'm a little bit jealous that I'm heading out of town this week and I'm gonna be missing some Valley football.
We're going to be at a great game.
Absolutely.
With some great people. Guaranteed.
It'll be fantastic to see.
Yeah. Moving on, we got Union Local next. They're 7th, Division 5, Region 19. They sit at 5-2. Afternoon game at Belair this week.
Afternoon game.
Yeah, Belair, no lights.
Okay.
Grass field. They play Saturday at noon.
Saturday at noon.
High school football.
That reminds me of my old Lindsley days when we used to play a lot of noon games on Saturdays as well.
Okay. Again, that's another place as we'll be talking about a little later. Go to Belair on a Saturday afternoon. I gotta sit with you home fans at Belair because I like the shade, that the cover gives y'all no seats.
Listen, we all know what you're going to Belair for, and it's usually not high school football. It's usually some goulas.
Goulas or maybe the Roosevelt. Either one gets some spaghetti down at the Roosevelt. You can't go wrong.
I think the last time you took me to Goulas, I'd had, a half dozen dogs?
That's what I stopped counting at because I only had 4 fingers left on my other hand. I want to count something else. Next we have coming up is Toronto. They're 9th, Division 7, I believe, Region 25. They're 5-3, and they got Punmunk Valley coming to town. Toronto looking to stay, in the playoff hunt. They're in the top 9. Getting that top 16, you're going to be in.
I mean, Two straight years when I was at Donahue, we went out and scrimmaged out at Toronto. Great people out there. Their fans were really accommodating and helpful. One of our kids ended up getting injured and had to go out on a stretcher. And there were literally parents of Toronto's fans down there saying, hey, we hope you're better. We hope this isn't serious, yada, yada, yada. I mean, just upstanding people up at Toronto.
Yeah. Next, we have Steubenville Central Catholic, ranked 12th, Division 7, Region 25. Now, they sit at 3-5, Zach, and you don't like me to include 3-5 teams in the rankings. But you're at 12, and you're 3-5, and the top 16 make it.
I keep wanting to call this segment in the hunt. You're like, they're not in the hunt. They're in. They're feisty. It's time. And once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. So while, I sort of scratch my head at the whole record for being in, at least they're in it. I mean, the OHSSAA, they're ready to rumble.
Yeah, and I think that was their contention with expanding the playoff field. You get to say you're in the playoffs. So let's see how that works out. Top 16.
And I think if you're one of those teams that's rebuilding, where you're at one of those smaller divisions and you're rebuilding, and maybe you have a 4-5 or 4-6 season, and it's something that you can bounce back with and say, hey, at least we got in the playoffs this year. It's something to hang our hat on, and maybe it's something to attract some kids to your program that may not have come out that year. And you say, hey, we were a playoff team next year. Come join us. Let's see what we can do. Maybe we can go farther in the playoffs together.
That's a great point, Zach. I mean, just building those programs. The playoffs are so important. And if you can say you can make the playoffs. It doesn't really matter what your record is at that point because everybody starts playoffs at 0-0. There's no more records.
Anybody can get hot at any time, and I mean, upsets happen. I mean, how many years was Loyola in March Madness getting ready to roll for upsets?
Yeah, definitely. Next, let's move on to River. Another shout out to River. I went to the game there against Barnesville. If you haven't been to River for a football game, go. Okay, just go. That's all I got to tell you. They're ranked 2nd, Region 7 or Division 7. Sorry, Region 27. They sit at 7-1. That one loss to Barnesville. They have Philip Barber this week. Okay, so you get a win. You're at 2. So now it's win a couple games, and you're going to be playing at home.
So you're saying they're the pilot of their own destiny?
I believe they're the pilot of their own destiny, Zach. Another dad joke there.
I can't help myself. It's right there.
It was pretty good. It was right in front of you.
Yeah, it's right there.
And then you get Flannery Field, and you get to play a couple home playoff games, and maybe OhioValleyAthletics.com, OVAthletics.com might get to see you again there at Flannery Field.
Would that be your guys' first repeat?
I believe it would be our first repeat.
Yeah.
So I don't know for the playoffs. We got so many teams that are going to host. We're going to have to figure out where we're going to be. Next, we got the Bulldogs, Bridgeport. They're ranked 7th, Division 7, Region 27. They sit at 4-4. They have the Shady Side Tigers this week.
Hey, I mean, that's practically them playing each other's backyards. I mean, would those be the two high schools closest to each other?
They're close.
For this week? They're pretty close.
They're pretty close. That could be the closest matchup we have this week.
Easily this week, I think.
And, sitting there at 7, you're 4-4. get a couple wins, could you get into that top 4 maybe? I mean, you're 7. You only got to go up a couple more, right?
I mean, you're striking distance.
Yeah.
I mean, it really just depends. I'm not entirely sure how the point system works in Ohio. Is it similar to West Virginia?
It's a little bit similar. I couldn't give you all the parameters,
right?
But I know you got to beat teams with good records, but you just got to win.
Yep.
You just got to win.
An old coach told me one time the secret to getting in the playoffs, you just have to score more points than the other team more times than you don't.
There you go. That's the ranking system we'll use from now on, Zach. I like that.
Yeah.
Fred Ray has those kids at Bridgeport. They're at 4-4. They weren't sniffing playoffs just a couple years ago.
No, they were not.
Now they're in the top half.
Yep.
Next we'll move on to the Frontier Cougars, and they're 11th, Division 7, Region 27. They sit at 3-5. They have Monroe Central. They have the Seminoles this week. So they're looking to get a win and really solidify that playoff spot. At 3-5 again, towards the bottom, but at 11, win a couple games. Could you get into the top 8?
I think getting to top 8 would be tough to do. I mean, I think getting to a 500, trying to not have a losing season would be huge.
Yeah.
And then maybe, have a playoff game, go somewhere, see if you can maybe get a little bit rolling.
Yeah. And finally, we have the Bellsville Blue Devils.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Bellsville, Jeff.
Now, they sit at 16, so they're right there. They're just in Division 7, Region 27. We have a lot of schools that represent that region. They're 2-6. And they're playing Payton City. So you're in the playoffs right now with a 2-6 record. I see you wincing there a little bit, Zach. 2-6, and you're in the playoffs.
I understand the system. I do. I understand it. 2-6 is a little bit harder for me to swallow, but I'm happy for Bellsville because I know there were a couple of times when I coached at Donahue where we would play Bellsville and it seemed like they had just enough kids for a team. So I'm really happy for Bellsville to have a chance to maybe go on a playoff game. I just worry about
lack of numbers.
Yeah,
maybe
lack of numbers is definitely
And now you're playing, a number 1 ranked team. If you look at that Region 27, River's sitting at 2 right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a tough game, but Bellsville, the Blue Devils, they'll be up for it.
If they win,
you're in the playoffs.
They have a game or 2 left, 2 games. Yeah. So if they win 2 games, beat Payton City, maybe Bellsville's going to River.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
You never know.
That might be a great game for us, Zach. Again, one of my favorite segments that we have so far is the rankings. I like going over and looking at the rankings, see our local teams that are going to be in the playoffs. These kids that get that extra 2 games, hopefully an extra 4 or 5 games, depending on if you're in West Virginia, Ohio. Get yourself into a chance to win a championship.
Well, it's nice to take a look at the rankings too, because I know for a long time I would hear a lot about these teams and I wouldn't really know where they sit. So I think the ranking segment is great for especially your average person that says, hey, maybe you just pay attention to West Virginia, or maybe you just pay attention to Ohio. Gives you a nice little snapshot in other teams' seasons. Maybe hear some little stories or a little bit of information that we have on those teams. And I think it's great to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot on every team in the Valley.
Yeah, great job,
the ones
Zach.
we can.
Yeah, definitely. Great job, Zach.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. Brought you in for a segment. I know, you mentioned to me before that you said, I'll leave that podcast and the Streamcast up to you. I don't know if you said that I look so good on camera, or I don't know, somebody else might have said that. I'm not sure.
I don't think that was me.
Okay,
I don't think that was me. My comment was because we put it up on the podcast, all the providers and stuff of podcasts, and I said it was much easier listening to you on the podcast than seeing you on YouTube. No offense, though, Jeff. You're doing a great job. I'm on the sidelines when Zach and Jeff is out here, and they're having a blast. And the amount of research that they're putting in on this is just phenomenal. And I can't wait to see where this podcast Streamcast goes. You guys are doing great work, and I'm excited to be here. I was really just going to let you guys handle it, and then I had such fun last week, and I had a blast again tonight just listening to you guys, and Zach with the dad jokes. It doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't. And Tom, I wanted to bring you in, and you're the stats guy. You're the memberships. This is how many people are viewing our site. This is, the advertising angle we need. Here's the sponsorships we need, and we need to get the numbers out to people and just let them know. If you're not watching our Streamcast, if you're not on our site, you're going to be one of the few people in the Valley eventually that are not.
Yes. And we're not going to bore you with a bunch of stats. We're not going to really get down into the weeds with the stats. But just a little bit about OV Athletics. At our prime, at OV Athletics, when Brian was running this, they had 11 million page views in a year. Okay. Now, it's been down a little bit because Brian moved away to South Carolina, and we just now took ownership of it about 2-3 weeks ago. But even with us just taking ownership recently, we're at 158,000 page views last month. we had nearly 5,000 users. We have 21,000 registered users, but we had 5,000 active users last month, 4,000 of which were brand new.
Yeah.
Okay. And the amount of time that they spend on our site, the average time people spend on the website is around 3 minutes. We're double that. We're about 6 minutes right now on how long somebody comes on our site, looks around, reads our stories. We just put an article up today for the Steelers game that happened over the weekend. I know it didn't go the way the Steeler fans wanted it to, but we have Aaron Horner who's writing for us, and you know Aaron very well.
I know
I've
really
known
well.
Aaron for years and years and years. When
I've known him for 30 years.
Football.
So,
and if you get a chance, go read that article. I think Aaron is an absolute star, and he's given us good numbers. We're getting good numbers from that article, and there's other good articles and posts that we put out on Facebook. We went to the Cameron game that you and Zach mentioned, and I think Zach wants us to go to homecoming together or something.
Yeah,
like
I don't know what that is. I
think it was a shot at us.
I think it was.
You know? But I'm not really sure. But we do pick homecoming games. But we put a post up on Facebook, and we have 21,000 followers on Facebook right now. But that one Cameron post, it gave us a target audience of about 12,000 people. Okay, that's one post. We get that time and time again for different posts. That's why, as an advertiser, we're going to promote you, just not on our website, just not on the podcast, but on our social media as well. You're going to get it all. Okay, we appreciate anybody that has faith in us that helps sell their product. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. We have nearly 3,600 followers on Twitter. Not so many here on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you watch this on YouTube, because we put it out on YouTube, and then we put it out on the podcast as well. This is a different channel than the original OV Athletics channel that they had on YouTube, and they didn't have very many numbers on YouTube. Yeah. He really wasn't focused on YouTube like we are currently, or we're going to be. Like I said, last week's was a practice run. This is kind of a practice run, but they're going so well that we're leaving them up and we're putting them up. So we need you to subscribe to not just the website, but the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube. Click it as your favorite on Facebook. Subscribe and get notifications on YouTube. Do all that kind of stuff. All that helps us with algorithms and everything else. And when we put a new podcast out, you'll get notifications of that. And we're not just going to do the podcast that you've seen last week and this week, and we were talking earlier on. We're going to have some special event podcasts. We have some guests lined up that's going to be absolutely fantastic. There are going to be some really big names. It's going to be very useful information to the student athletes in the Ohio Valley and the parents of the student athletes in the Ohio Valley. We're going to give you some content that you would spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on. So stay tuned for this. Subscribe, like, get notifications. It's going to be well worth it. It's going to be to your benefit.
And I tell you what, Tom, what I'd like to do is throw a challenge out to the people that watch this. We had 200 people that watched our YouTube. And what my challenge would be is tell somebody else. Yep. We would like to be at 400 this week. Yeah. Because what we want to do is the more people, the more traffic we get on our site, the more advertising dollars we can get. We want to put money back into your student athletes and back into this community. As a current coach and as an administrator or teacher, I can't tell you the support that I've received from parents over the years. And that's just of the kids I've coached, the kids I've had in class. And now we're reaching out to the Ohio Valley and saying, hey, come support us. We would love to support your kids and the student athletes of the Ohio Valley. Because it means so much to us. It was difficult, giving up the coaching. But when we really talked about it, it was like, do we help 50 or 100 kids or thousands of kids? And we want to help thousands of kids.
Yeah, my last game's Thursday. I already know we're out of the playoffs, and I wrap it up here. Today's Tuesday. We're filming this on Tuesday. So I have my last practice with the guys tomorrow, and then I have the last game Thursday. And it's going to be a sad day for me. I've been trying to mentally prepare myself for that day, because it's been nearly 20 years that I've been an official coach for a program, and to step away from that, it's difficult. And I'm not going to say I'm stepping away forever. If this takes off and we get to delegate more in the future and we still have everything rolling, I might look back to get into coaching. But right now, this next year or 2 years is going to be a lot of hard work for Jeff and I, and then people like Zach that's helping us out, and Aaron, and everybody is contributing behind the scenes. We greatly appreciate that, and we're going to work our tails off because we want this to be successful. We, like Jeff says, we want to help every student athlete in the Ohio Valley that we can, And the only way we're going to do that is through hard work and support from you all. Okay, we did pick up another sponsor this week with Quaker Steak and Lube.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas up there, correct?
Yes.
A
yes.
very nice woman. Helped us out. We have some gift cards. We did a gift card giveaway on Facebook. That's another reason you want to make sure that you like us on Facebook and you follow us. We have more contests coming up on Facebook. And we're going to do them specifically. They're going to be on Facebook and they're going to be on Twitter. They're going to be maybe even during the podcast and stuff like that, or on the website themselves. So don't just subscribe to one, subscribe to all of them. Okay, and follow us everywhere that you can. And it'll really pay off. There's some sponsors getting really, really close. We have some big time sponsors. The bigger the sponsors they are, the more time it takes with the contracts and make sure that everything gets worked out how we want it to. But they're coming along. They're coming along. You plugged the Roosevelt a little bit. And
a little
I'm going
bit.
to shout out to Neil Zaccanini. I was on the phone with him right before the podcast. He's a coach out of Barnesville.
Yeah.
And I told him how we're coming out there this weekend and everything else. And there's some certain pictures that we want, certain places we want to be. And he's going to try to help us out with that as well as Brad. Hannah's out there who does a nice job as the new AD. But we're really excited to go to Barnesville.
Tom,
I'm just excited.
I got to ask you a question. You know,
Okay.
you talk about the Roosevelt, and you've kind of taken on another job as a little bit of a personal trainer of mine,
Yes.
which I appreciate.
Jeff's doing very well, by the way.
Can
I'm
I-
very proud of him.
Can I have a plate of Roosevelt spaghetti?
No, you cannot.
Oh.
You cannot. You can.
Can I try it? Can I sample it? I mean, it's good. The Roosevelt spaghetti's good.
If you just do one cheat meal in a month, you can get away.
That
with
would be my one cheat meal in a
and
month.
it would be mine too, because I tell you what, it's quality food. Everything's fresh. Neil does a nice job. We're both keto guys, okay?
Yeah.
And I'll, you know what? If you do it, I'll go over and have a plate of spaghetti with
Hey,
you.
peanut
that's
gallery over here will eat your guys' spaghetti if you don't want it.
What?
We'll absolutely take it. We'll absolutely take it.
I don't know if Zach's ever said no thank you at a spaghetti house.
No, I
My
tell you
Italian
what.
Nana would roll over in her grave if I turned over spaghetti.
I tell you what.
So
it's good stuff.
as we talk about it, I just another shout
But
out to
Roosevelt will be coming along in some capacity very soon.
to Quaker Steak.
And thank you, Neil. And thank you, Mrs. Thomas.
I really thank Quaker Steak. I know they're known for their wings, but I
Great
tell you
wings.
what, you go up there and get their grilled chicken dinner. Have you ever had their grilled chicken dinner?
I have not.
Fabulous.
I have not.
Fabulous.
I like the ribs.
The
The
ribs
barbecue
are good.
sauce, and I don't
Okay.
do it often,
Yeah.
but I like the barbecue sauce. It just has that flavor for me. So
Yeah,
that's
so
my particular favorite.
Thank you again to Quaker Steak for the gift cards. It's an unbelievable help, and we just really appreciate it. How about the winner of our pick'em?
The pick'ems have been doing very well. The numbers keep going up each week on the pick'ems. If you're not, again, that's why you want to sign up for the website so you can participate in things like this. You get a T-shirt if you win, and it was the RIP 8 or the RIP 8.
They're
or
RIP. They're
what was you
RIP.
call-
They're
you and
RIP
Zach
I
was
was
eight.
running the Therap 8, right?
The
They're
Therap 8.
the
Therap
Therap 8.
We-
I don't know who
we
it
were
is.
thinking it was a Steeler fan,
Yeah.
and when Pickett got clobbered yesterday, they created their username.
I thought it was the T was for Tommy Maddox in the 8. I don't know. I don't know what
It
it's
could
for.
be. It
could be. Could
We're
be a
gonna
big
have to
Maddox
reach
fan.
I
out.
was saying,
We're gonna
rip
reach
Tommy Maddox. His career was over once Roethlisberger got there.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're going to have to reach out.
we'll have to
and
see what it
get
is.
the
But
prize to the Ripper,
congratulations.
or it might be the Ripper. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
It could be. It could be that as well. But he tied with John Marshall, the user.
Yeah.
And John Marshall, the user, actually won in the tiebreaker, but
Okay.
deferred to give the RIP 8 the prize because John Marshall runs it for us, and he's been doing a nice job with that. And we thanked him last week. We'd like
Yeah.
to thank him again this week because again, it's fans like that. It's people like Zach. It's people like Aaron that really make this special, and that so many people want to be part of it because they know where we're going with this, and everybody wants to help kids.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to.
I think the fun thing to do now, guys, would be we have a new segment here for you guys. I'm off screen, but I'm sort of curating, if you will. We're gonna do a beat the owners and the host on Pick'em.
Oh,
putting you
my.
guys here on the spot
Oh,
here.
my.
So we're using user John Marshall's Pick'em stats.
Yeah.
I posted mine on the board already, but we'll go ahead and I'll throw it to you guys, and we can make our picks, and you guys can see if you can do better than our owners here.
Okay, let's see.
So
Let's
for our
see.
for our week 9 Pick'em, our first game we have Hancock, Maryland at the 100 Hornets.
Hey, you can't bet against the 100. Okay, so I'm going 100 Hornets all day.
I'm gonna have to go with 100 Hornets as well. I don't know anything about Hancock, so with that said, I'm going in a High Valley team.
The first thing I did when I saw Maryland was I was like, oh boy, Maryland team's coming in. But then I went and did a little bit of research. I think I'm going with you guys too. I think we're all in agreement here. I think we're all going with 100.
Now, if we're lacrosse, everybody knows I'm a lacrosse guy. But if we was talking lacrosse and it was somebody from Maryland coming in, I'm picking them because it's crazy.
It's like
buddy.
It's how you I don't pick against the hockey team from Minnesota.
No, there you go.
Yeah, you don't do
but
that.
This is football, and they're not getting the pick.
Yeah.
So then we've got probably one of the class games of the week would be Dover at Lindsley.
I'll go first, I guess, as the host of the show. I'm going with Lindsley, the Cadets. Just the simple fact of what happened at Steubenville, So I'm going with Lindsley. I'm going with Cadets.
Just to add a little spice to everything, and I have Lindsley circled here on my screen, but I am switching it.
Change the banner. Change the banner, Zach.
Actually, change the banner. It's like on another show.
Yeah.
I'm going with Dover. I think
the Crimson Tornado.
I think they have a little bit more to play for right now. They're in that playoff hunt. They want to get that little higher seeding. I think in your segment you said they were 5 or something like that, and they want to get up in that top 4. I think they have a little bit more to play for. I worry about a little bit of a letdown game because Lindsley had a couple close games with the Fort Fry and with the Steubenville. And I know you're a former cadet, and I just think and they were such close games. Can they keep doing it? Is Cinderella's slipper going to fall off, or whatever that old saying is?
All I know, Tom, is I'm going to disagree with you here. That pumpkin's not. It's not
that
turning back into
not?
a pumpkin
Okay.
at midnight. They're going to keep rolling. The Cadets are going to keep firing their cannons and moving forward. I'm going all Cadets on this one. If the Cadets were picking back when I was in school, I might be picking against them. But right now, they're rolling, and that carriage is going to continue rolling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we've got to come to our next game. We have Monroe Central at Frontier.
I'm taking the Cougars. I'm going to take Frontier. Monroe Central, they've been great in the past. They're trying to get the numbers up again over there in Seminole Country. They'll have it back and rolling, but I'm taking Frontier. I'm taking the Cougars.
Same reason. I'm going with Frontier as well. Monroe's just down a little bit. Storied history, like you said, great program. Redid some of their facilities,
yes.
I believe.
Yes.
A nice place to play. They're going to be there in the future.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're where they need to be this week against Frontier.
I'm going Frontier as well. We're all in agreement here. It's kind of hard to pick against Frontier in this matchup. Right. No disrespect to Monroe Central. Then we come to our next game, John Marshall at Brook.
I don't think I'd be allowed back in Marshall County if I didn't pick the Monarchs, but I'm picking the Monarchs. I know Jacob still dinged up a little bit. Not sure if he's going to go, but like I said, Brennan at quarterback, not great stats, but just he's a competitor, and having coached him, he hates to lose. And, then you have his brother on the defensive end, and, Clipson, and you have Bryce Cook, and you have on the defense. You just have some kids that they want to win football games, and just I know them, and I think, they're up to the task.
Full disclosure, I teach at John Marshall, so I do know the people there and know the kids and everything else. I am also picking John Marshall. I know Brook has it going on. They're playing very, very well. But last week's win against Kaiser for John Marshall really said something to me. And I think Coach Caesar did a good job. And I think they figured things out just a little bit. I think sometimes it takes a coach a little while to really get to know your players, and being his first year as head coach. I think they're on to something now. And I like what they did last week against Kaiser. And I think they're going to keep it rolling against Brook.
Yeah.
I think as John Marshall rolls up Route 2, I think we're going to see two programs that are kind of in similar states. They're trying to find their identity. They're trying to fight forward. I think we're going to see a little bit of a back-and-forth battle. I'm going to pick John Marshall to win it on a last-minute field goal with some Fitz magic.
Fitz.
That's where I'm going.
We'll make
Fitz magic, another game winner, huh? You had one last year. Had one last year. Going to have one this year against Brook. That'd be big. Good call, Zach.
Huge. So our next game, we have Harrison Central at Indian Creek.
Harrison Central to Indian Creek. Indian Creek just, I believe, redid their facilities, or in the process of redoing their facilities. I don't know how much that's going to help them this week. I'm going with Harrison Central. I'm going with the Huskies. They're going to get the victory.
Indian Creek, one of the best high school bands around.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal band. Love listening to them at the halftime show. But they're not going to be on the field during the football game. So I think I'm going to go with Harrison as well. I think they just have a little bit too much for Creek this year.
I've got a really good friend that teaches out at Indian Creek. but she doesn't coach football. Harrison Central.
All right.
We have our next game. We have Morgantown at Parkersburg South.
Well, I think a good game. I think Parkersburg South, way too much offense. I don't know if they're quite averaging 50 points a game, but I know they're close. Morgantown's getting there, but they're not quite there yet. They're going to run the football. That's what they do. But I just don't know if they're there enough yet. Hold on to the ball, control the clock, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I'll take Parkersburg South.
Agree. Same thing with South. Their offense is, I think, just a little bit too much for Morgantown to handle this time. I think they, ever since that loss to Bridgeport too, I think they have a little bit of extra they want to give everybody they play the rest of the way out. So I'm going to stick with South on that.
What more can be said? I'm going South as well. It's hard to pick against them there. We then go to the Battle of Route 7. We have Shadyside at Bridgeport.
Shadyside and Bridgeport. We talked about a little bit about this game earlier. Playoff implications for Bridgeport. I'm going with Fred Ray and the Bulldogs. To get the win in this one. Just a little too much, I think, for Shadyside. They're rebuilding a little bit. They had a great year last year, deep run in the playoffs. Just rebuilding a little bit there at Shadyside. It'll come back. It always does. Shadyside will always come back. Just not this year. I think Bridgeport's going to win, push their record to, I believe, 5-4, and they're going to be in that playoff hunt, possibly hosting a playoff game over there in Bridgeport.
I'm with you on that. I think Bridgeport as well. Again, Shadyside down a little bit this year. They'll be back. They have nice facilities, good coaches. I'm friends with one of the coaches on the Bridgeport team. I know they're doing a nice job, and they're going to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Time for me to hunt for a Tiger Pub endorsement because I'm going Shadyside.
Whoa!
Going with the upset special. One of the guys I worked with William Middle for years, huge Shadyside booster. A shout out to Dane Kritz. I'm going Shadyside with the upset.
Going with the Tigers. All right, Zach, that's a good pick. A lot of enthusiasm there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I guess they always say if you're going to say something, say it with conviction, right?
Listen,
yes.
Hey, I'm a Browns fan. I'm used to being real wrong on a lot of decisions. Our next game, we have Fort LaBouffe. I think I'm saying that right. At St. Clairsville.
Red Devils all the way. Vera. Back here at quarterback. I think a little shout out. I got to give this one to Marcus Bush, Eric's boy out there. I think got a 2-point conversion in the game last week. I worked with Eric for a while. Great guy. Marcus, a good athlete. Got in there in the end zone. They're going to ride that running game and they're going to get a victory.
I was just going to go the same with St. Clairsville. That running game, I think, is just going to be too strong for anybody to keep up with. They do a nice job. They're just going to pound the rock and they're going to keep time possession in their favor, and I think it's going to go their way.
Hey, just like when you won a mall in the Valley, there's only one place to go.
Yeah.
St. Clairsville. That's my pick.
There you go.
Gotta go with them. Our next pick, we have Union Local at Bel Air.
Okay. The Jets and the Big Reds, okay? Remember, afternoon game at Bel Air. Union Local, most of these teams, your body's used to playing 7 o'clock Friday night. Tom, being a little bit of a trainer as he is and knows a lot about nutrition, a lot about training, and your body wants to do that at 7 o'clock in the evening, and you come back and want to get it ready at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure it makes an effect on the teams, but I think Union Local has a little too much for Bel Air. Bel Air is coming on strong. I got to see them play a couple times this year in a scrimmage, and they're right there on the cusp, but I got to go with the Jets in this one. Sorry, Big Reds. I just got to go with the Jets.
We've seen Bel Air a couple times this year, and you mentioned the Saturday afternoon game, and it's later in the season, so the weather's cool. I think if it was a hot day earlier in the year, it might beat on Union Local a little bit more. I don't think the temperature is going to be too much of a factor in this. Bel Air has the talent. I love how the ball comes out of the quarterback's hands. Again, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Union Local will pull it out in the end.
I'm going for a lot of offense, but I'm going Bel Air to get the victory there.
They're tough. I'm telling you, I can see it.
They're frisky. I like them. They're frisky.
I think Zach's picking with a little bit with his hot dog heart.
Hey.
Or spaghetti.
Spaghetti against Gulas, hard against Roosevelt.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have probably one of the toughest matchups of the week. We have Musselman at Wheeling Park.
Ooh. Wow. Tough one. Musselman, number 1 class AAA. Number 1. The Appleman out there. Coming back, they used to be a strong program, 80s, 90s, dropped off a little bit. Now they're back to being number 1.
Yeah.
And you got Wheeling Park, 13. Ranking does not, say what their team really is. lot of speed out there. I've been thinking about this all day. When Zach came up with this segment, I've been going back and forth all day. I'm going with Wheeling Park in the speed. And Musselman won't be able to keep up. They haven't seen that speed yet this year. Park's going to throw it all over the field and go out there, and they're going to get a victory.
You're going to like this, and because we're both Irish fans. And have you ever heard Lou Holtz ever pick against Notre Dame?
No.
No, and I'm not picking against Wheeling Park. I'm a graduate from there. I just recently coached their lacrosse team. I have a lot of players that played for me on their lacrosse team, on the football team. They're going to get it done. They're going to find a way. Doc's going to find a way to get it done, and the speed's going to help them. I think the running game is going to be a little bit better than people think that it's going to be. I think that's going to do well for them, and I think they're going to squeak one out there at Musselman.
I agree with Jeff on the speed element here. Again, I'm picking a little bit with my heart because a bunch of former players of mine are playing there. They're having some time and working really hard on that team. I think Coach Doc gets his big signature win after the state championship. I think this is the big one that he can put the feather in his cap, signature win, beating number 1 Musselman.
All right.
I like it.
And then we have a tiebreaker here. If we want to participate in the tiebreaker,
we do.
I think we do. Let's have some fun with it. Let's have some fun with it.
Our score for Lindsley.
Because I'm going undefeated this week, Zach. So if somebody else decides to go undefeated, we're going to need the tiebreaker.
The overconfidence is your weakness.
Well, we have Dover and Lindsley this week, right?
Denver tiebreaker.
Okay, so you want the score, right, Zach?
That would be the score, yes, sir.
I'm going Lindsley Cadets 27, the Dover 21.
Ooh, I'm going to go with a bit of irony here because I picked Dover earlier in the segment. I'm going with Dover 28 and Lindsley 27.
Okay, close one. Lindsley and another close one. Back to back weeks.
It's the same score as last week.
I'm going Lindsley with a 2-touchdown win. Lindsley 28, Dover 14.
Ooh, okay. Couple touchdowns there, Zach. Yeah.
All right, so hopefully we'll have a great segment here. I hope maybe you guys get to beat these guys. Maybe they're going to be wrong with my shady side Tigers. Yeah. I hope. But thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll go ahead and jump into our next segment.
Yeah. Zach is back with us from off the sideline. Zach, you came in. We're going to do a couple things here for segment 4.
Absolutely. So happy to be back. You know, my spiral staircase up there, I really debated being true Statler and Waldorf and just yelling smart aleck comments down from the peanut gallery. But, you know, sidelines was more than enough. I'm happy to be back in the driver's seat here.
You know how much I would have loved that. That was my favorite segment of the Muppets.
Who doesn't love the Muppets?
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
We're going to start something new here, Zach, and this was your idea that you brought up to me, and doing a featured article of the week. So as we're trying to get more and more information on OVathletics.com, stories that feature local athletes and local businesses and just local sports news. The one we're going to feature this week is Stephanie's All-Stars.
So Stephanie's All-Stars, the article is linked on OVathletics.com, but last weekend there was a charity softball tournament for Stephanie Phillips. It was a wonderful event. All the teams donated to participate. There were teams from certain businesses. I know Sherrard Middle School had a team, and I played in it, you know, got my knee brace on and made sure my knee didn't explode during the playing. But hey, you know, my goal was to get on base this year, and you know, I scored a run, so
pretty good
there. Yeah. And considering I hadn't picked up a bat, you know, since last year, and then before that it was like 14 years since I picked up a bat. I'm taking that as a huge win, but it's a huge event for the Valley. Really awesome. We love getting the word out there. Be sure to go check out the article, and there's a link to make donations to the charity as well there in the article. It's a really wonderful cause that's near and dear to a lot of people in Marshall County.
And just to mention a little bit with Stephanie's All-Stars, what they like to do is get equipment for kids that can't afford equipment to play sports. That they feel that should not be a reason that kids can't play sports, whether they need a bat, a glove, some cleats, some shoes, a basketball, whatever they need. And that's why Stephanie's All-Stars, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get equipment out there for kids that maybe can't afford it. If you go to OVathletics.com, check out the story. There's a link there that you can make donations. And you can always message us and just say, hey, I have this, I have that. I want to give this to you. I want to give this to the organization. Look for a big announcement coming with OVathletics.com and Stephanie's All-Stars coming up. But just watch.
Really exciting stuff going on there. And as I said, it's a wonderful program. If you guys have a chance to get a team put together next year, or if you're curious about it, again, the article links all of that. And when the tournament comes up, I'm sure we can share more information on that on the site as well.
Yeah. Something else we wanted to do, and Tom started this, best stadiums in the Valley, Zach.
Ooh, best stadiums in the Valley.
Whew.
I think what we should do here, just out of fairness, we don't want to do an official ranking right now.
No.
We want to hype it up a little bit, and just you and I, we could riff for hours.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this podcast or Streamcast swells every week.
Yeah.
Because we just can't stop talking to each other. But I think what we should do is we just share some of our favorite stadiums in the Valley, maybe with some little anecdotes as to why with those. Again, these are in no particular order. We don't want to make it seem like we're doing a ranking right now. This is by no means a definitive ranking. If you think we're full of crap and think we should change it up, be sure to let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. YouTube comments are awesome because I'm the nerd that runs the YouTube channel, so it's great for me to see the comments there. But on the website or the message boards is more than acceptable too, right?
Go to the message boards.
Message boards, all right. Message boards it is.
And tell us. No, you're wrong. So, Zach, is we looked at best stadiums, and I'm going to get booed, and I'm going to hear it and not be around anybody. Steubenville. If you've ever been to Steubenville, how about the away sideline? The fans are on your back, like their feet. I think they rest their feet on the opposing players, like on the back of their shoulder pads. They're so close to the field.
I coached at Harding one time when we took Donahue up there. We played at Steubenville Central, and I looked there, and literally one of our loudest parents was in the front row, right behind us, with maybe like 2 feet to the coach's box. And I was like, goodness gracious, we're right there. We had players going underneath to store their bags underneath the stands, just so they were a little bit closer to the field.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a true experience up there, right? I mean, it's hard to list iconic stadiums and not include Harding. I mean, it's just literally the class of everything. People pay money to go to Disney World for the experience. People pay admission at Harding for the experience of Ohio Valley football.
How about Cameron? I mean, I know we featured it. We did an article, and you go out there, the sunset across that tree line on the stadium is beautiful. The turf field, the new press box, the stands, and just the people. So, not that we're ranking them, but as I said, I think last week, this week, go see a game at Cameron. I can't tell you anymore. I'm going to tell you every week, but go see a game at Cameron.
Did you know that I made a donation to that Cameron field?
I did not know that.
The last playoff game I coached for Wheeling Middle School, it was the year after I broke my leg. I walked out onto their field before they put in the beautiful turf on crutches, and the mud on our sideline ate the bottom of my crutch. So I like to say that I've made a donation to Cameron's field because my crutch is probably still somewhere in the substrata of the earth underneath Cameron's field.
Of the turf. Okay.
I definitely think it's under there still. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Another great place, Martins Ferry.
Oh, Martins Ferry is a great field. I had a chance to coach on that when Bishop Donahue coached the All-Star game. Gorgeous field. The turf there is awesome. I mean, it's fantastic. For a while there, I think it was a little bit of the newer turf that actually had that little bit of a grass feel to it, where it wasn't that smaller turf still had the pellets, the wonderful turf pellets.
Definitely.
One of mine that I always like to throw out there. How about going to Shadyside? It may not be the fanciest stadium in the world, but it has that iconic Ohio Valley feel. And for me, it'll always hold a special place in my heart because that was the first place I went scouting to go scout an offense when I started at Bishop Donahue. And, ironically, when we were walking in, it was raining, and I slipped on one of the painted paw prints they had, and I bummed my knee and was limping in, and then I just walked in and was just overwhelmed by just that classic Ohio Valley football feel.
Now it's been years, but I have been out to Barnesville. And I'm going back this week, and I just got to mention it. You want to talk about like a home field, homey feel, just Ohio Valley, just says it all. Barnesville, the Shamrocks. I mean, you got to go.
That's one I'm not sure I've ever been to.
Yeah, you're going to have to put it on the to-do list.
Gonna have to.
I know you're going out of town this week. Find a time. Go with OVathletics.com. We're going to have a great time out there. Brad Hanna, athletic director out there, contacted him. He said whatever we need, and I didn't expect anything else from the people out there. Whatever you need, it's yours. Great place to go, great place to watch a football game. Just on the list again. How about Blair? Saturday afternoon.
Nothing like it.
Grass field.
Oh, I love me a grass field.
So I mean. And how about this? A little modernization out there. Have you seen the new locker rooms that they've put in?
I've not seen the new locker rooms.
Oh, my. If you ever get a chance, go over there. That facility, they have new locker rooms, weight room, everything over there. They built it right behind the visitor stands. Go check it out. New visitor stands, home stands covered. You got to sit there to get the shade, of course. Yeah.
Now, it kind of seems like we're kind of picking chalk rankings here, right? We started with Steubenville. we have to bring up the stadium on Wheeling Island. There's a reason the Super Six is chosen to be there every year. It's just, again, it's an iconic Valley football stadium. It's gorgeous. The turf is great. The stands are huge. Being up in that press box, you get that classic view of looking down over the football game. I mean, you feel like you're up on high looking down and watching a high school game. It's just got a great feel to it.
Do you know what one of my favorite things about the stadium over there?
What would that be, Coach?
The parking. Wheeling Island lends their parking lot. Doesn't charge, doesn't rope off the areas, don't park here, don't park here. How many businesses, Zach, would say, no, you're not parking here for a game, or we're going to charge you to park here for a game. So there's plenty of parking real close to the stadium. So, Wheeling Island, again, the casino helping out the community, I believe, by just saying, hey, here, open up our parking lot, park there, no admission, we're not roping anything off, park where you want over here. Real nice for the Island Casino.
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, it's there's a reason that the Super Six hosted. I mean, it's fantastic. I've got a lot of good memories there, whether it be watching former players of mine or just going and attending games for years. When I was at Lindsley, the Lindsley Central game was played on the island for years. Yeah. So I got a lot of good memories there. A lot of fun evenings spent there with friends watching some good football.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go on. And as I told you and Tom earlier, I think I name all 60 places in the OVAC. I could go on and on about, I think, every stadium. So
there's two. I'm off camera.
Tom's off camera to the side.
I had two, and we've talked about them before through both our podcasts. And one was earlier today with Morgantown, how the schools wrapped around the stadium.
I forgot.
And they have incredible locker rooms. It was recently updated as well. Beautiful, beautiful facility. I had a chance to play lacrosse down there several times. Amazing field. And the other one I want to add, and we have to shout out to Coach James on this one, is down at River at Hannibal.
How did I miss River? How did I do that? How did I miss River? Just being down there for a game, and I mentioned him a couple times. Again, just a very unique setting. The school sits right there. The football field sits right behind the school, kicking extra points off the side of the building. And you go up any of the other streets, there's just houses and houses and houses. You're like in this little town, and then you run into this school and a football stadium. Just everything out there. The people were so accommodating, so nice out there at River. And I think everywhere in the valley that I've been, I can name, Magnolia is another great place to go watch a football game. Valley is another good place to watch a football game.
I'd throw Oak Glen out there.
Oak Glen, beautiful stadium.
I always forget about Oak Glen. Man, their field is gorgeous.
I believe Zach and Tom. I don't know if you know this little fun fact about me, and I could be wrong. Fact check me on this. I know you will out there, OVathletics.com fans, but I think I coached the very first game on turf at Oak Glen when they put the turf in. And also the very first game, I believe, on St. Clairsville's brand new turf when I was coaching at Sherrard. So both at Sherrard middle school games, I believe, both scrimmages. And I could be wrong on that, but some of the first games on both of those turf fields opened them up.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Now, as we said, we could sit here and list most of the schools in the OVAC. You guys have tons of awesome stadiums. Please, please, please go on the message boards. Let's talk about it. We can even segue into our. Or do you have more? Do you want to segue?
I'll never shut up, Zach. That's one of my 44-year qualities is I've never been able to shut up. I think I came out of the womb talking. So, but how about you tell us? Say, hey, you didn't mention us, and it's probably because I haven't been there.
Right.
So say, hey, why didn't you mention this place? Why didn't you mention this place? Of course, I've been to John Marshall. They redid their whole facility. If you've never been down there, check out a game. It's all over the valley. But, message me. Say, hey, come here, and we'll make it there. Is what I'd like to just reiterate to everybody. I would like to get to every OVAC stadium, in the High Valley.
Listen, we love hearing that we're doing great. We also love hearing what we're doing wrong. Come tell us we're wrong. Tell us, hey, there's a stadium you guys missed. It's fantastic. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to see it. And with that, let's segue into our message boards. Our message boards are a great place to get a hold of us. Great way to start up conversations. There's tons of threads going on there right now. I believe, as of like 25 minutes ago, I think there's a best quarterbacks thread. I think there's a best running backs thread in the Valley. We've got some offensive line talk going on. You guys are giving me some names to start looking up because, as everybody knows, I love the big mahonkers on the offensive and defensive line. You guys are giving me some names to start researching, start getting on Huddle and looking up some film. So it's getting me excited. I'm really looking forward to that.
Zach, I believe they have a best center. They've not only done offensive line, they're breaking it down by position. So best center.
Fantastic.
Maybe how about we start the best guards, tackles, defensive ends, defensive tackles, linebackers, punters, I believe we have an all-state punter in the Valley, and hopefully we have an all-state kicker in the Valley as well. And how about we start a kicker, a punter, and just get them all going. Help us with the message boards. I mean, the message boards are going crazy.
How about,
there's
how about
so many
one of the
threads.
craziest positions in all of football? Best long snapper.
Hey,
Yeah.
You get us a long snapper, start a best long snapper thread.
I would be very impressed with our community if we get a long snapper thread.
Let's get that out there for Zach. How about we get a best long snapper thread out there for Zach?
I would love to see it.
Check them out at OVAthletics.com. Go to OVAthletics.com. Hey, if you're not a member, sign up and start a thread and say, hey, nobody has the best defensive tackle yet. I'm going to start that.
Listen, I forgot my password to my old account that I signed up for many, many years ago. It takes only about 30 seconds to sign up. However, the security question will not accept West by God, Virginia. You got to just go West Virginia on that security question there.
Yes, it's very specific.
Very specific.
And if you do forget your password in the future, Zach, I think I know a couple guys that might be able to look it up for you or change it for you.
Right?
Yeah. But we'll take a look. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Tell a friend. Out of those 200 people that watched last week, tell one person. Let's get that number up to 400. I'd love to come back here next week and say we had 400 views on YouTube for the OVAthletics.com Streamcast.
Awesome. Yeah, just be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I mean, that's the best thing you can do for us. We travel by word of mouth. Thank you guys so much for viewing. This has been a ton of fun. As always, I'm going to shout out my wife for letting us use our room and her taking care of my son during all of this. So thank you, Anna.
Yes. Hey, again, visit OVAthletics.com. Look for us on Facebook. Look for us on Twitter. Hey, if you want some sponsorships out there, if you want your ads to be on with us, let us know. Contact us. Reach out to us. We're here. We're ready to help the Valley. Hi, Valley. Until next week, this is OVAthletics.com Streamcast.